Let's transition into the Pac-12. Number 8 Oregon Ducks go on the road to take on the number 13 Utah Utes. This is a 3:30 kickoff on Fox, and Oregon currently favored by 4.5 points, even with Utah's impressive win last week against USC. Oregon just playing lights out. They played even against Washington, just an unbelievable game. A couple of question marks in that game that, Dan Lanning makes a couple of questionable calls that could have gone the other way, could have put Oregon in a much favorable spot to win that game. Nonetheless, they're still fighting for a Pac-12 conference champion spot, hoping to get a rematch against Washington. ESPN gives Oregon a 68.6% chance to win this game. Bo Nix, he deserves the Heisman, in my opinion. Everyone talks about Michael Penix Jr. Everyone talks about J.J. McCarthy at Michigan. But I tell you what, look at this stat line for Bo Nix. Over 2,000 yards passing, 19 touchdowns, and only 1 interception. And you can argue, well, he's not playing in the SEC for Auburn. I get it. But without Bo Nix, I don't know who Oregon would be. I get it. They have a great defense, and they're playing really, really well. They might have as good of a record as Utah at 6-1, but I don't think they'd be anywhere as talented as they are without Bo Nix. On the other side, we know that Cam Rising still out. He'll be out the rest of the year. Utah, just a phenomenal job, Brad, this year. 6-1, like I mentioned. Number 13 in the nation. The run game is slowly picking up, I guess. Brad, I'll hand it over to you. Who wins this Pac-12 defensive matchup, in my opinion?
Yeah, I mean, you brought up some really, really good points. I know they were your good of the week, but hats off to Utah. I mean, just gutting that one out. And Nate, I think we both talked about, we said the Utah offense has been awful, but they got it right against USC last week. So hats off to Utah. Nate, in this one, I'm taking the Oregon Ducks. Utah is a very, very good. They're a well-coached team, but it simply comes down to me that they do not have enough offensive firepower to keep up with Oregon. You mentioned Bo Nix, who I'm with you. He should be right there in the Heisman talk. They have an explosive receiver in Troy Franklin. Bucky Irving is a talented running back. Utah's defense is getting a lot of the publicity. Oregon's defense is just as good. They're giving up 312 yards a game. The passing yards, I mean, they've gone up against some very, very good passing offenses, but still, their defense is, to me, just as good as Utah. So I'm taking the Ducks. I think Oregon covers this one. I think Oregon is on a mission. I think their sole focus right now is let's get to the Pac-12 championship and rematch against Washington on a neutral site field. So give me the Ducks in this one.
Yeah, Brad, you bring up a lot of good points. You mentioned Bucky Irving, who's actually listed probable/questionable for this game. He went down last week with an undisclosed injury. And then you look at their star DB, Kyrie Jackson. He's questionable for this game as well. That could play a big factor in this game. And when you look at the Oregon defense only allowing 312 yards, 217 yards, and through the air, and 95 yards on the ground. Utah's defense just as good, actually better, 295 yards, 217 yards through the air, 78 yards on the ground. Brad, everything in me wants to pick Utah again for a back-to-back upset. But in the end, I'm going with the Oregon Ducks. I agree with you. Even with their injury list and questionable players, I still think, as I mentioned in the preview, Bo Nix is just playing lights out, and it's going to be really, really hard to stop him. I think Irvin ends up playing, like I said, he's mentioned as probable, 7 touchdowns, and then you mentioned Franklin as well. Just such an incredible weapon for Bo Nix, 8 touchdowns, 768 yards. He's a safety blanket. All the credit to Utah. I picked them last week. I'm very happy I did, but this week, I'm going with the Oregon Ducks. That concludes today's episode. When we come back next time, we're going to discuss our Week 9 recap, and we're going to get into and break down our Week 10 game day previews and predictions. You don't want to miss out. The matchups throughout this year are just getting better and better. Be sure to subscribe to our new YouTube channel at Break the Huddle. Be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. Share it with your friends. Follow us on all socials at BreakTheHuddle_. And be sure to turn on your bell notifications on YouTube and Twitter to stay up to date when we post our latest videos. And let us know in the comments who you believe will win this week's matchup. From Break the Huddle Studios, this is Nathan and Brad signing off.